전 세계 500대 기업의 CEO 중 27%를 배출하는 글로벌 리더의 산실. 세계 최고의 인재들이 입학을 꿈꾸는 미국의 아이비 리그. 미국 기업의 채용 담당자들이 가장 선호한다는 하버드 예일을 제치고 졸업생 평균 연봉 1위를 차지한 아이비 리그의 숨은 강자. 교수 1인당 학생 수 불과 13명. 다트머스 플랜이라는 독특한 학기 제도를 도입하는 등 차별화된 교육 과정을 자랑하는 글로벌 인재 육성의 요람. 이곳을 찾은 이유는 240년 전통의 다트머스 대학을 이끄는 자랑스런 한국인 김용 총장을 만나기 위해서다. 2009년 아이비 리그 역사상 최초로 탄생한 아시아계 총장. 소수 인종에 대한 차별을 뛰어넘은 그의 총장 선임은 미국뿐 아니라 전 세계를 놀라게 한 일대 사건이었다. 타임즈가 뽑은 세계에서 가장 영향력 있는 100인에도 선정된 글로벌 오피니언 리더. 세계보건기구 에이즈 국장을 역임하는 등 20여 년 동안 국제의료 봉사에 헌신해온 김용 총장. 2년 전 총장으로 선임된 직후 피플인사이드에 출연했던 그와의 만남은 아직도 많은 이들에게 강렬한 인상으로 남아있다. 소수의 헌신이 세상을 바꿀 수 있다는 메시지를 실천하며 이 시대가 바라는 리더상을 보여줬던 김용 총장. 취임 후 2년이 지난 지금 그는 다트머스의 누적된 재정 적자를 타개하고 과음 방지 캠페인을 성공적으로 이끄는 등 학생들 속으로 파고드는 새로운 리더의 모습으로 다트머스의 학생들을 열광시키고 있다. 2011년 여름 우리가 그를 다시 찾은 이유는 많은 이들이 진정한 멘토를 갈구하는 이때 글로벌 리더를 꿈꾸는 수많은 청춘들에게 그와의 인터뷰가 소중한 멘토링이 될 수 있을 거라 믿기 때문이다. 동양인 총장을 향한 세상의 편견을 바꿔가고 있는 그만의 특별한 교육 철학. 그가 생각하는 글로벌 인재의 조건은 과연 어떤 것일까? 세계 최고의 인재들을 이끌고 있는 아이비 리그의 총장이 취업과 스펙 쌓기에 지친 한국의 20대들에게 과연 어떤 조언을 해줄 것인가? 그가 전하는 메시지가 방황하는 이 시대에 우리 청춘들에게 보내는 뜨거운 응원이 되길 기대하며 지금 그를 만난다.
역시 침대엔 과학이 필요해.
그럼 잠깐 자더라도 푹 자게 하는 게 과학이지.
침대는 가구가 아냐.
침대 과학 에이스 침대.
해버 굿잠.
커지기만 하면 뭐해? 잘 커야지. 마침내 한 손에 들어오는 대화면 폰. 혁신은 그런 것이다. 베가 S5.
마라톤 하프코스 완주하기. 맨 얼굴로 승부하기. 90 완소 11자 볶음 만들기. 내 꿈의 시작은 홍초. 기초부터 바디 체인지. 청정원 홍초.
왜 연예인들은 점점 더 예뻐지는 걸까?
자연스럽게 아름다워지고 싶을 때
피부 조직 구성 성분으로 자연스러운 히알루론산 필러.
나에게 선물하는 내추럴 뷰티 레스틸렌.
총장님 안녕하셨어요.
예, 안녕하세요.
2년 전에 제가 여기 와서 뵙고 인터뷰를 했었는데 와 보니까 2년 동안 상당히 많이 바뀌었어요. 네, 지난 2년을 되돌아보시면 그때 이제 취임하시기 전에 제가 뵙기 때문에 이러이러한 걸 하겠다라고 포부를 많이 말씀해 주셨는데 지난 2년 동안 이건 내가 참 성과가 있었다. 라고 하는 건 어떤 것이 있으세요?
아이고, 처음 들어왔을 때는 이 financial 문제, 이 경제적인 문제에
재정 문제.
대해서는 이렇게 잘 이해하지 못했습니다. 그래서
우리말을 잘 하시는데 이제 영어가 편하실 땐 영어를 해주셔도 좋을 것 같아요.
One of the most difficult things I had to discover was that we had a $100 million budget deficit. We were spending way too much money. Our expenditures were far greater than our revenue. And even though I've never run a business before, that's one thing that I know, that you cannot do that. But the good news is, when you're in a situation like that, you learn everything about the institution. We had to look at everything from how we purchase trash bags and toilet paper to faculty salaries, everything we had to look at. So it was actually a great opportunity. The difficulty was that we saw that we had to make some really difficult decisions. But it made me much better, I think, as a leader. Because, you know, there's a saying in the United States that is a quote from Nietzsche, actually. And the quote basically says, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Right?
아, 그렇죠. 나를 죽이지 않는 위기는 나를 강하게 한다. 네.
But what he failed to say is, it almost kills you. So it didn't almost kill me, but we jumped right into the most difficult thing that any college president has to do, which is cut the budget, do it strategically, and we're now on very, very sound financial footing. So that was really important. And you know, other things. I started out saying something I thought was reasonable, but now I understand just how difficult it is. We committed to having one fundamental innovation in higher education every year, meaning we were going to do something at Dartmouth that no other college or university had ever done in history. So I'm used to working in a very fast-moving, and we're trying to provide treatments for people in Africa. So I was used to moving very quickly, and I thought that was a reasonable idea. Turns out that's a very difficult project. But so far, in my first year, we started something called the Dartmouth Center for Healthcare Delivery Science, where the business school, the engineering school, medical school, and Faculty of Arts and Sciences have come together, and we formed a new field, a field that's focused on figuring out how to deliver healthcare. Interestingly, we've never had that kind of field before. So year one, that was our fundamental innovation. And then this year, this is something that is very well known in Korea, Kaesun, this culture of continuous improvement. But we've taken those principles, continuous quality improvement, and are now bringing it to the problem of binge drinking in the United States. We're going to teach them how to focus on binge drinking in a way that will continuously improve situations so that we reduce binge drinking and we reduce harm. I mean, we had 2,000 young people die last year from binge drinking on college campuses. So that, for this year, that was our fundamental innovation. So we're 2 for 2. And now I'm very worried about what we're going to do for next year, because it's really difficult to make a fundamental innovation. But I don't know any other way of working. And I would feel like I'm not earning my salary, or I'm not really doing the right thing, if we didn't focus on doing something fundamental every year.
네. 지난 2년 동안 고생하셨군요. 들어보니까 그러니까 대학 재정, 살림 구석구석 다 챙기시고요. 그 기본적인 기초를 닦는 일을 다 새로 하시는 건데, 개선하시고 바꾸시고 이노베이션 하시기 위해서. 근데 지금 말씀하신 것 중에 그 한국인이기 때문에 이런 것에 대한 부담 그런 건 없으셨나요? 역대 총장들은 전부 백인이잖아요.
There were some very interesting times. Especially some of the alumni from the 40s and 50s, people who are 70, 80, 90 years old. When they went to school at Dartmouth, there were no students of color. There were very few Asian students, maybe 1 or 2, very few African American students, very few students from Latin America. It was just all white men. And there weren't even very many Jewish students at Dartmouth College. So I meet those older gentlemen all the time. And sometimes they're just uncomfortable, and they'll say things to me like, well, I visited Korea, or I just ate at a Korean restaurant. Just things that may seem silly, right? But I understand them differently. I understand them as saying to me, I like you and I want to make some kind of connection to you. And so, being older from a previous generation, they try to think of whatever they can come up with. I like kimchi or something like that. But I take those all in with a sense of gratitude that they're trying to make a connection to me. So I have to say that I was surprised, but the issue of me being Korean has almost never come up. So the world has changed, and I never would have guessed it. I thought there would be more problems, but there's almost been nothing. And I think the key for me was that I had to really embrace the culture here. Things like running around the bonfire, in the middle and during our homecoming weekend. The alumni tell me that I'm the first president in history that ran around the bonfire with the students. And so for the alumni, little things like that make a huge difference. And it wasn't so much the fact that I'm Korean American, but that I've embraced the spirit of Dartmouth College.
그건 정말 좋은 거네요. 한국인이셔서 그런 걸 특별히 어려움이 없으셨다는 건 정말 다행스러운 일이고, 말씀하시는 가운데 이제 올해 시작하신 일 중에 벤지 드링킹 막는 거, 그러니까 학생들이 이렇게 폭음을 많이 하나요? 다트머스 컬리지에서? 어느 정도로 술을 많이 마시나요?
So there's been studies over the years about what percentage of students engage in binge drinking. And so the definition of binge drinking is 5 drinks within 2 hours for men and 4 drinks within 2 hours for women. So it's many people drink more than that, but for an average size man and an average size woman, that's how many drinks it takes to impair your judgment. So how often have you done that? So in the United States, 15 years ago, they did a study, and about 40% of college students, men and women, engage in binge drinking. 40%. And so that's part of it. But then the other part of it is 2,000 college-age students die from binge drinking every year.
미국 전체에서요?
In the United States. So I'm a public health physician. I'm president of the college. The thing I worry about most is that we're going to have a death. We almost had a death about a month ago, where 2 students who'd been drinking fell off the roof. Yes, fell off the roof of a local fraternity house, 44 feet onto concrete, and almost died. So I mean, this is the one thing that I fear the most, that I have to wake up one morning, call parents, and tell them that their children died from drinking. So it's the one thing that worries me the most. And
밤마다 잠도 못 주무시고 그러세요?
It's difficult. It's difficult.
네, 걱정되셔서.
I've experienced the drinking culture in Korea.
많이 마시죠. 대학생들 사고도 많이 나고요.
84년도에 제가 처음에 갔을 때
한국어 배우셨어요.
가서 뭐 술집에 많이 갔고.
그러면 총장님도 한국에서 술을 드셨어요?
제가 인류학과니까
인류학을 하셨으니까.
인류학을 했으니까 이 한국 젊은 사람의 문화에 대해서 많이 연구를 해봤죠.
총장님도 벤지 드링킹을 하셨고요.
No.
You should say no.
No. But I was a fairly young student at that time, so I wanted to get a full sense of what the binge drinking culture was all about. And so it exists, but it exists everywhere. So what we're saying here at Dartmouth is not we want to stop everyone from drinking, because it just doesn't work. And the key is an approach that we call harm reduction. We know that young people are going to drink. The key is to make it as safe as we possibly can. If what we do is to say, don't drink, we're going to outlaw drinking on Dartmouth College campus, what will happen is they'll get in cars and drive and drink, and that's even more dangerous. So it's really very scientific. It's a question of, if I stand up and say drinking is bad, likely they will ridicule me and they'll drink more. So what I have to do is to say, what can we do to make it safer? And what can we do to create other kinds of activities so students can have fun without drinking? So that's the sort of thing we're working on. But it's a difficult problem, really difficult problem, because alcohol does exactly what people want it to do. It reduces their inhibitions, it makes them more gregarious, it makes them want to have fun and get immediate gratification. It turns them into different kind of people. So we're battling against a legal substance that's actually good for you in small quantities, that does a kind of thing to young people that is exactly what they want, but gets them in trouble.
네. 아니 근데 그 binge drinking과 관련해서 그 총장님께서 연설하실 때도 그 얘기 하셨더라고요. 어떤 연구도 있는데 18세부터 24세까지의 그 지능이 그 우리 마인드, 정신이 이렇게 뇌신경에 연결되는 발전을 가져오는 중요한 시기라고요. 그걸 많이 설명해 주시면 좀 더 설득력이 있지 않을까요?
one of the things that I studied since coming here, during my first year, we had a group of professors, and we sat at this table right here and talked about every other week or so about learning, about 18 to 24-year-old minds. We have specialists in psychology and brain science who study the process of learning. So on a regular basis, we sat at the table and just talked about what is happening to the 18 to 24-year-old mind, and what can we do to really make the experience here the most rewarding and the most effective that we can be. So we learned a lot of really interesting things. One is that exercise. One of our professors here studies the role of exercise in learning. And so this is something that I talked a little bit about last time, that rather than just 열심히 공부하고 다른 거는 안 하고 운동도 안 하고 그냥 열심히 공부하고, that stuff doesn't work. So I've always felt that exercise is important. I've always felt that exercise helps my mood and it helps me to focus my mind. And it turns out scientific studies have shown both of those things. It improves your mood and it also improves your ability to learn. So I've been an athlete all my life. I spend a lot of time with teams, as you know. The football team. The football team sees me as almost their mascot. I don't know if that term translates very easily. And so people have sort of wondered, why do you spend so much time focused on exercise and athletics? Because it helps you learn. Right? So this is a very important message for the parents in Korea. That healthy lifestyle. But in this case, the more you exercise, the more rigorously exercise, the better off you are. Another thing we found, lots of people focus on specific topics. I'm a very strong believer in a liberal arts education. I think that getting too narrow and focusing on one topic too early actually doesn't develop your mind in the way that it should. We've learned things like music and arts, right? So I was asked at one point to give a lecture to the heads of the arts complex. We have a wonderful arts complex here at the Hopkins Center. And so the arts director here said, we'd like you to give a lecture to this group. And I said, I don't know anything about arts. I have no artistic talent at all. I don't know anything about it. He says, well, we want you to give a talk anyway. So I started doing some research. It's just incredible how important arts training is for young people. So we found things like, for example, when they did a comparison of young people with arts training versus people that didn't have arts training in large databases, they found that having arts training was very important for your academic performance. And they found things that, like having piano training when you're 4 helps you with conflict resolution when you're 6. They found that learning how to do acting is very good for being able to learn things physically, being able to watch something and then mimic it. So I was shocked. I never participated in the arts. And I participated in athletics, but I never participated in the arts because I just didn't understand the importance of it. But the science now is very powerful. So the Korean parents who force their children to learn piano, it's actually very helpful. It's a very helpful exercise as you're growing older. We think that's also true for a liberal arts education. People who study engineering and literature, we think that they're developing different parts of their brain so that they're able to think about problems in a much more creative and innovative way. That's why we focus on all these different activities. So at Dartmouth, we encourage people to be involved in the arts. We encourage them to be involved in athletics. The engineers we encourage to listen to study comparative literature. Now, I even when I was asked to be part of a show, there was a show called Dartmouth Idol. You may have seen this. So,
had the time of my life, and I never felt this way before, and I swear it's the truth, and I owe it all to you. Oh, I've had the time of my life, and I never felt this way before, and I swear it's the truth, and I owe it all to you. I came up in here to rock, light a fire, make it hot. I'm here rooting for my idols, up here giving all they got. So come on, let's go. The show is out of control. The house is hot tonight. Go, go, big green, go.
So they asked me to do this again this year.
누가 요청한 거죠? 학생들이 아니면?
No, it was it was students, of course, but
네.
the director of our gospel choir.
네.
He's a brilliant producer,
네.
and so he asked me to do this. And I said, well, you know, I've learned that actually arts is really good for you.
네.
So I'm not going to do it just haphazardly, and I'm going to actually practice. Right?
얼마나 연습하셨어요?
So about over a month, I did I think 4 or 5 sessions with a voice coach.
네.
And so the voice coach actually helped me learn how to sing.
Time of my life.
Yes.
Will I ever do?
That's right. So I'm still not a very good singer, but I actually got better.
아 근데 정말 아주 인상적이어서 그거를 여러 번 봤거든요.
네.
근데 많이 웃었고요.
네.
그 노래도 잘하시고 그다음에 그 하얀색 자켓이
네.
가죽인가요?
Yeah.
가죽인가요? 그다음에 그 하얀.
It was from we have a studio art and we have a visual art and a performing art department all here. And so one of the professors actually got all those things for me. And they actually taught me how to do the dances in a way that was very well choreographed. And here's what I learned. I learned that it's that all those things about how learning dance, learning singing, learning acting, those develop parts of your mind that are very important. Because when I tried to learn the dance moves, I couldn't remember them. But the students, who are also very brilliant Dartmouth students, but also dancers, they only said, okay, do this and that and this, and boom, they would do it. But that part of my brain had not developed. So it took me much longer to learn how to do those things. It took me much longer to learn the lyrics of the songs. And so it made the point very, very clear to me that when you do these activities that are outside just studying a single thing, it's really important in developing the way that your mind works. So anyway, these are the things I'm learning. This has been the most exciting part of the job. I didn't know that we had these young people at such an important time in their development. So I think about that even more seriously now. So, oh my goodness. So after parents have raised these children with such great care up to the age of 18, I now have them, or we have them, faculty and administrators and we have them for probably 4 of the most important years in their lives. And so we have to think about this in the most serious way. What are the habits of the mind that we're inculcating in these young people? What are they teaching them? What are we equipping them with as they leave?
네. 와, 정말 여러 가지 얘기를 강의처럼 해주셨어요. 근데 일단 이제 여러 가지를 알았어요. 그 더 좋은 교육을 시키기 위해서 그 총장으로 계시면서 계속 연구를 하신다는 게 굉장히 인상적이고요. 지난번에 인터뷰에는 총장님에 대해서만 많이 여쭤봤지만 이번에는 한국에 있는 우리 20대 또는 10대 학생들을 위해서 이렇게 멘토링을 해주시면 좋을 것 같아요. 그래서 지난해에 다트머스 학생들한테 강연해 주신 걸 제가 봤는데 거기서 참 인상적인 몇 가지가 있었어요. 특별히 이제 habit of mind라는 거에 대해서 이렇게 강조를 하셨더라고요.
This is happening mostly in the kindergarten to 12th grade, from 유치원 to 고등학교까지. And the teachers in that area, in that range, are really studying these issues very, very closely. But what they're saying is, instead of teaching science or teaching physics or teaching math, what we're really trying to teach are habits of the mind, so that when they leave college or when they leave high school, that they're able to learn new materials. Okay, so here's something that is a little bit bracing. So when our computer science students, our brilliant computer science students, they'll graduate after 4 years of just extremely rigorous education. But the likelihood, and one of our computer science professors says this, they will have to relearn everything over the next 3 years. Right? So what they learn in their 4 years at Dartmouth is much less important than the skills they've picked up in terms of how to learn. Right? So that's really, really important. We have to teach them the skills, but the question that we have to also ask ourselves is, are we teaching them fundamental habits so that when they have to completely relearn everything in 3 years, they're equipped to do that? And so some of the things that are important, persistence. Persistence is really, really important. And it turns out that there are ways of teaching persistence to young people. And there's a lot of research in this area. things like taking things you learn in one area and applying them to other kinds of problems. There's actually a word for that. The scientific literature calls that transfer.
네.
And that's the ability to take lessons from one topic and apply it to another.
네.
And we have to ask ourselves, are we teaching in a way so that our young people can learn one thing, but then apply it quickly to something else? Here's another thing. Other things too. I think one of the most important habits of the mind is being able to write and speak clearly. So we have a writing program, of course, and the students who come in here write well, but we're dramatically expanding our writing program. Right now we only specifically teach writing in the first year, but we're going to now expand that into the second year, and we hope the third year and the fourth year, so we work on writing skills during the entire time. It is still a fact that very few people write well. And it's still a fact.
미국에서 다트머스 학생들도 그런가요?
Yeah, of course.
여기 오는 훌륭한 학생들도요. 네.
It's the most difficult thing. And having written books, you know how difficult writing is.
네.
And a great author once said, writing is very easy. You open up your blood vessels and you drip it on the page one drop at a time. It's the most difficult thing.
네.
And yet, we know that people can get better at it. And I think that for Korea, if I were to give one piece of advice to the Ministry of Education,
네.
I would say really, really focus on writing skills. And you know how you become a better writer? You have to read a lot. Right?
And think a lot.
And think a lot.
네.
Read a lot and think a lot.
네.
And so this notion that Korea is going to get ahead just by focusing on technology, I think that's incorrect.
네.
Right? And so the humanities become very important.
그렇죠.
I've heard that in some institutions are shutting down humanities departments, and I think that's a mistake.
네.
So these are the kinds of things we work on. We're not equipping our students for their first job out of college with what they've learned in their 4 years at Dartmouth. We're equipping students with the ability to adapt to a rapidly changing world for the rest of their lives.
Wow.
That's what the educational system
네.
in any great country has to focus on.
진짜 중요한 말씀하셨어요. 그러니까 학생들이 그냥 졸업하고 당장 써먹는 어떤 직업이 아니라 이렇게 딱 equip하게 한다는 거잖아요. 인문학을 얘기하시면서 그 empathy, 그러니까 공감이나 감정이입이나 이런 능력에 대해서 굉장히 강조를 하셨더라고요. 그게 이제 인문학을 강조하는 것도 상당히 연관성이 있지 않을까요?
One of the most successful Dartmouth graduates, his name is Leon Black,
네.
and he's a very famous person in the world of finance. He's a multi-billionaire. He graduated from Dartmouth summa cum laude, the highest honor.
네.
Right? And he runs a private equity firm that's among the most successful in the world. And when he was asked, I asked him, I said, well, what is it that made you successful? And he said, I hated Harvard Business School, and I learned nothing there. What helped me more than anything else was my study of Shakespeare when I was at Dartmouth College.
하버드 비즈니스 스쿨이 아니고요.
Yeah, Harvard Business School
네.
it didn't help me at all. And I said, what do you mean by that?
네.
He said, human nature. That in the investment game, and he said, and by the way, in just about anything else in the world, understanding human nature, understanding how people react, understanding a social situation, these are the most important things for success.
So he can predict.
So he can predict. So he can read people. So he can understand whether a company is going to be successful or not by looking at the CEO, looking at other kinds of people. So his ability to understand how human society operates was really, really important. Now, in Korea, sometimes they say 눈치가 빠르다, and that can be negative.
네,
right?
그렇죠.
Yeah.
네, 약간 나쁜 의미도 포함되어 있죠. 내포되어 있죠. 예.
Right. My own view is that I think it depends on what kind of literature you read, right? And Shakespeare is so complex that for Leon Black, reading about Shakespeare, going through it and trying to understand what it was saying about human nature and human motivation and human ability to be evil and human ability to be good, those are really, really important. So empathy is not just having a feeling that someone is in bad shape. You see a poor person, you feel badly for them. That's just the beginning. True empathy means you really understand why people are doing what they're doing. You understand it fully, you know why, you know their motivations, you know what they're trying to achieve as a result, and then you act as a result. Now, trying to teach real empathy, right? you know, I think learning literature is a wonderful way of doing it. But again, it has to be great literature that challenges you to think and not just sort of, you know, throwaway novels.
그리고 이제 그 책을 많이 읽으라고 그러는데 어떤 책을 읽느냐가 중요하고 검증된 인류가 검증한 고전, 클래식을 읽어야 된다는 말씀이신데요.
Also, but not necessarily classic. There's modern novels that are also really good. Yeah, 인증된. Okay.
네.
So I mean, some of the movies that I've seen,
네.
you know, what's the one? Old Man, the one where he cuts his tongue off.
Old Boy. 네.
3번 iron. You know, what are the 3 iron? They called it. The guy who goes to the houses and lives in the houses. He swings the golf club.
네.
Okay.
김기덕 감독의 빈집.
So I've seen 빈집, I've seen Old Boy, and I just think those are such powerful movies. Complex themes, incredibly.
Make people think about human nature.
Make people think about human nature. So it seems to me that Korean people are already fully engaged in trying to understand these kinds of things. And so again, I think Koreans, because you cannot live in Korea without nunchi, right? So already they have a very strong foundation of understanding how other people think and feel. Now, that's really important foundation, I think, that you take away for the rest of your life. You know, a lot of people think American society is, I am me, I am myself, I express myself in whatever way I want. But that's only part of the equation. I think being creative is really important. But there's deep empathy. Not only do I think it's useful on a personal basis, and so for Leon Black, having the ability to empathize and understand other people led him to become very wealthy and successful. But I also think it's the foundation for how we treat each other. It's the foundation for this better human beings idea. That,
better world is
that's right.
Yes.
Unless we can truly empathize with people in Africa who don't have health care, who don't have food, unless we can truly empathize with the people who we may go to war with, it's going to be very difficult to avoid doing terrible things.
그러니까 지금 이제 한국말로 눈치라고 이제 비유해 주셨는데 이게 shallow 눈치 말고 profound understanding.
Yes, that's right.
네, 그렇게 말씀해 주신 거죠. 네. 한국 학생들한테 고민이 뭐예요? 이러면 취직이요. 그래요. Finding job. 그렇게 얘기를 하거든요. 혹시 스펙 쌓기라는 말씀 들어보셨어요? 스펙 쌓기? 한국에서는 이 말이 굉장히 대학생들 사이에서 광범위하게 쓰이고 있어요. 무슨 말이냐면 learning experience, learning experiences to prepare for their job. 그런 얘기예요. 그래서 이렇게 오직 취직을 위해서 대학 4년을 다 걱정하고 쓰거든요. 그래서 나중에 정말 글로벌 리더가 되기 위해서 대학생활 4년 동안 이건 꼭 해야 된다라고 해주시고 싶으신 어떤 게 있을까요?
One very interesting thing that we have heard about, and I haven't really seen the data to back this up, but I was told this by one of our very senior people, and it's that of the students who graduated from Dartmouth in 2005, 40% of them are doing jobs that didn't exist in 2005. So 6 years later, 40% are doing jobs that didn't exist.
무서운 말이에요.
Yeah, right.
네.
So this is going to happen, and it's going to happen everywhere.
네.
So I would say a couple of things. First of all, for the young people, is to be a global citizen. Care about what's happening in the rest of the world. You know, read. There are so many wonderful magazines, so much great literature in Korea. I mean, I've it used to be that Korean newspapers and magazines were focused only on Korea. Now they're much more focused on how the rest of the world is doing. Find a way of really understanding and trying to get inside things that are happening in other parts of the world. I think it's really important for Koreans to learn at least 2, but preferably 3 languages. You know, the Netherlands, people from the Netherlands do so well, and almost everybody in the Netherlands speaks 3 languages. So for Koreans, very reasonable to learn English, Korean, and Chinese, for example. You know, it's just something that everyone should have, but not just study them. You really should be able to use the languages
and understand culture as well.
And understand the culture as well. You can now. It used to be that you had to be very wealthy and you had to go there, but now there's so many things that you can use to understand how other cultures work. There's YouTube. There's just so many resources online that you can use to learn how other cultures think. So being a global citizen means that you can really have a deep sense of how people from completely different cultures can see the world, and it can be so different from the way you see the world.
네.
So those things are also really, really important. You know, at the end of the day, just doing those things that you're supposed to do, you know, just take care of it. You know, make sure that you know, going to a good school is important. You know, do your studies and make sure that you do those studies well. But I see a lot of young people suffering over it. You know, my parents tell me to do this, but I don't see it's worthwhile. Yeah, you know, why should I do this? Why should I study this? Why should? Well, some things are just very, you know, you should see them for young people as just acts of discipline, right? Practicing, you know, think of what the Buddhist monks do. You know, my friend who's now a Buddhist monk, his job used to be, they used to make cassette tapes of the sermons of the leader, right? And his job for years was just to clean the little cassette tape machine so they could make a cleaner copy. And that's all he did. This is a Harvard graduate, brilliant guy, and he did these very small things because the Buddhists understand that doing small things with great devotion and persistence teaches you something important. So don't make an excuse. Well, I shouldn't study math because how's this going to help me in my career? Studying the math, doing your homework, you should see as a wonderful exercise in discipline. And that going through this wonderful exercise in discipline, that's what's going to equip you for success in the future, because you know that when you have to do it, you can sit down, you can calm yourself down, and you can do a task. Every time you do it, it's like you're lifting weights. You know, you're strengthening this sort of discipline muscle in your body, and to have that is really, really great. If you just do that and you don't understand how the rest of the world works, then I think you're not. It's going to be difficult to be a leader. But doing both of those things at the same time, because the one thing that is always required of great leaders is the ability to discipline themselves, to sit down, to get things done when they know they have to do it.
그 글로벌 시티즌이죠. 그렇죠. 그리고
그럼요.
글로벌 리더를 만드는 게 다트머스의 사명이라고 생각하시고 총장님께서도 그 사명을 하시는데 최선을 기울이시는 거잖아요. 그래서 지난 2년 동안 해보시니까 어떤 희망을 당연히 보시겠죠. 내가 이 글로벌 리더들을 만들고 있다는 어떠세요?
Well, you know, every time I meet these young people, the students, I'm very hopeful. These students are so bright. They have so much potential, and we get them at a time where they're still forming their personalities. But I still feel that if we're able to inflect their lives, if we're able to give them a different way of looking at the world, if we're able to give them a sense of values in terms of really being connected with the rest of the world, that through them I will accomplish much more than I would on my own. Right? The reason I came and took this job was because I read about a particular gentleman, and I've learned more about him. So let me tell you a little this story. John Sloan Dickey was the head of public relations in the United States State Department in August of 1945. So he was the head of public relations for the U.S. Department, Foreign Affairs Department. In August of 1945. It was announced that he would be the next president of Dartmouth College in that month. And in that month, the U.S. government, the U.S. dropped nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So John Sloan Dickey, the next president of Dartmouth College, had to stand up in public relations and defend the U.S. dropping nuclear weapons in Japan. And so when he came here, he was obsessed with this issue. He kept asking himself, oh my goodness, we just about started, you know, a nuclear war. We just detonated these bombs that were the most destructive force in the history of the world. How am I, as college president of Dartmouth, how am I going to educate our young people so that they prevent us from blowing ourselves off the face of the planet? That was what was in his heart as he came here. So he said at the very first convocation, at the very first time, it was in 1946, the next year, the first time he had a new group of incoming students, he said this to them. He said, I want you to remember two things. The first is that the world's troubles are your troubles. The second is that because the worst troubles of the world come from within the hearts of men, there's nothing wrong with the world that better human beings cannot fix. So That's my role. That's what I'm doing here. I am trying to build the better human beings that are going to tackle the world's troubles so that we moved away from the Cold War. We moved away from nuclear annihilation. But we have many other problems, many other troubles. Everything from environmental sustainability to healthcare to social welfare to education for everybody. We have so many problems that I still think my job here is to build the better human beings that will tackle the world's troubles. And if you're going to do that, you better know about the role of music and art and literature and athletics, all those things in developing young people's minds. And so we're trying to create here the best possible educational experience for young people, taking all that into account.
긴 시간 정말 많은 얘기를 해주셨고요. 이 얘기를 여쭤보고 싶어요. 사실 한국인으로서 미국에 오셔서 손꼽히는, 가장 선두로 꼽히는 그 성공한 한국인으로 얘기가 되고 있는데요. 성공의 정의가 어떤 것인지 사람들마다 다 다르잖아요. 성공의 정의가 어떤 것인지. What is your definition? Your definition of success?
Wow. In my work life, for me, you know, it's what I've said before, and what I always say is, I came here to do something. I didn't come here to be something. And so, for me, success means that I never lose that kind of sense. The trappings of being in this kind of job are such that you can quickly turn around and just enjoy being something. Right? That if I ever get to a point where I catch myself trying to preserve my position as opposed to trying to do the right thing for the world, then I will force myself to leave this job. The other area, of course, is it's important to me to be a good husband and a good father and a good friend to people, and that's much more complicated and difficult. and it's because in those areas, you have to be ready to really hear difficult things. You know, my mother once told me that you should think of your life like the plant, the wheat plant, because the wheat plant grows and grows and grows very rapidly, and then when it reaches maturity, it bows its head. Right? If I can do that, if I can continue to be more and more humble, if I can continue to be the kind of father and husband that my family wants me to be, I think that would be successful.
네, 말씀해주신 what to be가 아니라 what to do 말씀해주신 거 기억에 가장 오래 남을 것 같고요. 가정의 행복, 좋은 아빠, 좋은 남편, 그 말씀도 잘 들었습니다. 언제 사실 오늘 저희 방송을 통해서 한국에 있는 많은 그 사람들에게 좋은 얘기를 해주셨는데 한국에 오셔서 강연을 한번 해주셔야 되지 않을까요, 직접?
I'm so proud of what Korea is doing in the world. I'm watching carefully. And when I see my American friends talking about Korean movies, so there's so many things that I'm proud of, and I'd like to go back to Korea just to express my great admiration for what's happening in Korea. And again, I think it's the same advice to Koreans that I would give myself. Right? It's just beginning. Think of all the different things, all the stages that Korea has gone through. Who could have imagined that we would be where we are now? But what I would say is Koreans have to stay ahead. We have to be the ones who look around corners and can see into the future. And in order to do that, we need people who are extremely well trained and able to think very broadly, very worldly, understand how the rest of the world works, and take those next stages. I don't know how I might be able to play some sort of role in that, but if I can, it would be my greatest honor to work with Korea and with Koreans to think about what's next for this extraordinary country. I'm of course very much an American, and that's part of my life. But every year I feel a stronger pull to Korea and what it's been doing.
네, 알겠습니다. 그렇게 말씀하시는 그 가슴에 있는 소리를 잘 알아들었고요. 오늘 여기까지 또 와서 이렇게 귀한 말씀, 오늘도 두 번째로 잘 들었습니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
네, 고맙습니다.
네.
My silly heart says you're a fool.
Go take care of her. She's all that you've got, all that you've wanted, and all that you're not. Don't care if I'm down, don't care how I feel. I love you so much that I'll always be here. Don't worry about me, I'll take care of you. This is a way. Don't care if I'm down, don't care how I feel. I love you so much that